What's going on? I wanted to get on here and rap for a little bit. I did my video last night on setting goals, and I still stick behind that because it's one of the most important things you can do. But I think what made me get on here is I read a post earlier. I'm in some of these Facebook groups with music licensing and film and TV music, and some of these guys that are just starting out and they ask these questions. They ask, how do I make money in this? How do I do this? And rest assured, I have, and every one of us have asked that same very question. And I still ask similar questions to other things, like some of these guys that are doing a lot of the upfront custom work and a lot of direct stuff that, besides libraries, that's really the goal I'm working for, is just doing direct stuff, man. Trying to get all that stuff, all the pieces of that puzzle put together, man. And some of the points were made were, you got to network and get out there and learn the business. And I've said this, and I got to thinking that I think I need to, I need to go back and maybe redo these videos that I did of learning the business, because I think when I did that, I didn't think about specifics, and some of the things I think about now I should have covered, and a lot of questions I asked I could probably touch on a little bit better, and maybe talk further about that. I just there were some things some really good points I made, and there were some good points that needed to be made that I didn't. And a lot of times I'll get to talking about something and I may miss a point, and I go back, should I redo it and go back and add that point, or should that be a talking point later? And I think some of the points were made were, you got to learn the business. It's not rocket science, really. And I think a couple of them made a great point, is you should never have to pay somebody to get your music placed. That's number one. That is just important all the way around. Don't go pay anybody. These outfits like Taxi and Broad Jam and these guys and Song Trader, the best point I read, and I've always believed in this, they're out for their career. They're not out for your career. And whatever you do, don't ever let anybody take half your writer's royalties just for the sake that they say they can put your music in these libraries either, because they're looking out again for themselves. They're not looking out for you. They're looking out for them. So there's so many great opportunities out there that will work for you, but the most important thing out of this is that your music is your voice. Out of anything you do, your music is your voice. And I've said this in other videos. Evaluate your music. Go sit down and figure out the music you're doing and what it is. Narrow it down to what genre it is and where it's best. Do the research of these libraries. Do the research. Take the time to do that. And I've said it, don't contact these libraries without researching them. Don't just shoot your music to these libraries and spam them, because you send your music and you're doing, let's say you're doing hip hop or EDM, and you shoot it to a library that does jingles for commercials or singer-songwriter, or they do trailer music. They already know you didn't go to their webpage and research, and they're probably not going to respond back to you. And if they do, it's probably they're going to kindly tell you to F off. So it's just one of those things that these publishers and these libraries get so many of these emails, and it pisses them off. But take the time to learn that. It's not hard, but you just got to have a lot of patience and persistence. It's hard. I think anything in music is hard. You sit there and wonder how these guys are doing it. Somebody had to step up to the plate and do the work to make it happen, set the goals. And it's important, know what you want to do and where you want to go with it. Know where you're going. It's not every year or every time you're going to meet your goals. I've been there. There were, I guess it was one major goal last year that I didn't meet. I'd mentioned in yesterday's video. I didn't get an album done. That's on my plate this year. But I exceeded some goals. I signed 2 publishing contracts this year in 2019. My goal was to sign a new one And that one I signed on my own accord by approaching a library that gets a lot of placements with a lot of music that I do. And it was a really good, I think it's a really good fit for my music. But the second contract was really somebody contacted me about collaborating some of the music that I do, some tension music, together for another library, and generated another contract. And that's a part of that networking, and don't be afraid to collaborate with people. That's I've talked about how it's kind of one of the hardest things for me is collaborating. It took a lot for me to open up and kind of let someone in to do that, because it's, doing it by myself for so long, it's hard. I mean, it really is hard to let people in to do that. And there's trust factors and stuff, but another big point someone made, I thought it was fantastic, and I think I've always known this, but I've never really conveyed it, was don't be somebody that thinks like you're holding in the world's greatest secret. In other words, don't be one of these people that go, well, you got to figure it out for yourself, and, I'm not telling you all my secrets and my strategy. Nothing's a damn secret, And I'm going to put a link at the bottom of this video again to the company that has the directory for the libraries and the publishers. And I will reiterate that directory can be dangerous if you don't know how to approach these libraries. Be careful. Learn how to write a good email and how to approach them, and always know what you're signing. I mean, there's a lot of resources out there, and finding the right fit for you in the right library. I mean, there's thousands of them probably, and I couldn't tell you about all of them. I don't know if they're all legit, but there's some big ones in there, and they're really good companies. Some of them are a lot harder than others to make contact with. But back to my point was, be somebody that's willing to reach out and kind of give and not just take. In other words, be willing to help. Be willing to kind of get involved and ask. Don't keep secrets like it's some grand, like you've got a gold mine sitting over here you don't want anybody to know about, It's not what that's about. Because what you're doing is not the same thing that I'm doing. In other words, you and I could write the same genre of music, but it might be different types of genres. We might write two different types of tension music. There may be a specific library that I'm with that takes a certain type of tension, that the tension you're doing, they won't take. I mean, it's about the simplest way of putting it is that people ask some of these libraries, the libraries I'm working with might not be the fit for you. Find the libraries that work best for you. Granted, I've gotten with some of the libraries by word of mouth of people talking with me and passing it on about the genres of music we do, but I did the research with these libraries. I didn't just throw my music to them because someone said, that's a great library, they get a lot of placements. If it's not a fit for you, it's not going to do you any good. You're wasting your time. So, like I say, don't be a prude, I guess is the biggest point of it. It was just a really good point of just be human, man. Don't be, a prude about it. Just learn everything you can. Have patience. That was the next point. And I knew this, and I've said this time and time again. This is not an overnight business. This is not something where you're going to go open up a turnkey business that's in a retail and a lot of people buy from it. So it's up to you to get out there and advertise and hope people come to the door and people are aware of it. And make sure that you have the quality. This is something a little bit different, where it's a little bit deeper, where it's almost like sales, really, to be honest. It's like my brother. He sells supplemental benefit insurance. You're no good if you're not in these people's face. If you're not making contact and trying to connect with these people. Now, I mean, in one sense, don't piss them off, but there's nothing wrong with making phone calls or emails and saying, hey, I understand you're doing a lot of this type of music. What can I do? This is what I do. I do this type of genre of music. What can I do, for you? What music do you need? Can I send you some music? Listen, these guys love the fact that you call and ask them what their protocol is to send music to them. They also love the fact that you've gone to their webpage and done the research. As a part of that networking, it doesn't take much to connect with these people. And the more they hear from you, and the more music they hear from you, if they hear it's getting better or more, they're going to be more inclined to bring you in and take some of your music. It only takes a few to get it started. It's up to you to keep it going. You got to do the work. You got to do it. And I think one of the biggest things I said is joining the Production Music Association. I'm not trying to sell this. I'm just telling you it's something that has helped me tremendously. You want to network with people and learn how to connect and how people tick in this business, which I swear, I think I'm still trying to figure out how some of these people tick. Good God. But I've learned a lot from it. I really have. It's been a great resource. I mean, you'll learn, you know. I guess I've gone to it about 3 years now. I've gone to my third conference this year, and I'll continue to go. And I think the value of it is the people you meet, you learn probably from each other more than you do these panels. Not to mention you learn a lot of what's going on in the industry, a lot of new things that are going on. So definitely. So just be patient. Patience and persistence. You know, my biggest point here, I think, that I had was, lastly is you got to love what you're doing. Love everything about it. Like anything you do, there's going to be things you hate doing. You love writing music, you love composing it. But there's going to be a time you got to sit down and you got to upload music and you got to tag stuff and you got to go and make sure your music is being processed and look through BMI. I mean, these are things you got to stay on top of and do. It doesn't take the world of time. You just have to make the time for it. You got to budget your time, but you got to produce that music. And that's one of the points I read today on that post was, it's a numbers game, but you got to do it with quality. You can't just throw music out there and not have quality with it. And it takes a while to do it. I've got about 1,400 tracks published, and I've been doing this for 10 years. Now, mind you, I've done probably the most of that work over the last 3 years. Had I been doing the work that I do now over the last 10 years, I'd have had a lot more than 1,400 tracks published. But it takes time. You don't expect overnight results. And don't be disappointed on your first royalty statement either. That's going to take a moment. You may get a $5 royalty statement. It's your first statement. I think mine was about $5, maybe 10. And I wasn't even thinking about the amount of money. I just loved it. I was floored that I got a royalty statement for the first time in my life. It was awesome. So just stay focused. And just, most importantly, just love what you do. You got to love it. If you don't love it, none of it's going to work. You got to love it. Because there's no way you're going to put hours in a day into this and write countless pieces of music and deal with times that you may get burnt out and need to take a break for a few days or switch genres of music or go spend some time shifting gears and learning something new or listening to new music to inspire you. You know, and I've talked about things when you get burned out. It's going to be those times. You got to be able to go through those moments to love this and do it. You know, you got to love it to get through all that. It's not all what the rest of the world says it should be. You know, it really isn't. But at the end of the day, if you can do what you love and have a passion for a living and make a good living doing it, there's nothing better than that. You'll never work a day of your life. So anyway, I just wanted to get on and make a few points on that and reiterate them. I'll put a link down below of that directory. It's musicregistry.com. And really good directory, but just be careful when you use it. Be very careful. This directory, I'm going to reiterate again, it's not a secret. You know, I think I had someone one time say, hey man, why are you letting that secret out of the bag? I said, it's not a damn secret. It's not. Listen, the guy who does that directory is at the Production Music Conference every year. I talk to him every year. Nicest guy, and those guys do a really good job. It's a lot of work rounding up all these resources and trying to keep them updated. And the cool thing is, it's $100 a year. You're investing. It's the biggest investment in your business. If you got to consider it a business. That's what this is investing in that directory. I haven't even scratched the surface of it. I mean, and there is tons of resources in that directory. So I'll lay a link down below on that. Like I say, it's not a secret. And what gets me is there's guys trying to sell it like it's something, their own leads or their own resources. And that's, I get it if they're like, these are my most recommended ones to use. That's cool and all, but don't pass it off as that's a directory that you created, because it's the same as it's the same directory as what this company is basically put together or selling. It's no, so just know that. I mean, it's not a mystery. I Googled it years ago, about 8 years ago, and found it. I mean, and I just said, I'm going to buy from these guys. This is the source. Why do I need to go for the other? I've got everything in this one directory. I mean, I'm not being shortchanged on just a few libraries. It's everything. It's TV networks, publishers, you name it, the works. You'll get it when you see it. Anyway, I hope you guys have a great new year, and be sure to set those goals. I'm telling you, it works. Set the goals and meet them. You can do it. Until then, we'll see you in the next video.